Hey, everybody. Hope you're tied on as we start a new week of racing at Gulfstream Park. Jason and Ronnie catching up with you once again live from our third-floor clubhouse studios and a 10-race Thursday, Ronnie, switching it up ever so slightly here. 10 races on the card and a lot of carryover action.
Yeah, fast and firm today. Two big carryovers to let you know about. Of course, the Rainbow Six, over $1.5 million, but we got a carryover in the late pick 5 today.
Yeah, there was some chaos here going back to Sunday afternoon, including a horse by Noble Mission that stepped onto the turf and won the last race and paid a good price, and in turn did, of course, complete that late pick 5 carryover. More on that in just a second. Let's dive in our usual housekeeping, our daily rite of passage here on Gulfstream today, or what's on tap. Just 9 cards remain. That's hard to believe. 2 weeks. That's all that's left in this elongated, extensive summer meet at Gulfstream Park before we pack up and head on over to Gulfstream Park West in Miami Gardens. So the final 9 begins this afternoon. You've got Victor Barboza, who just tore it up here Sunday afternoon, whose barn is upwards of 30% for the entire meet. He sees action fairly late in the day, and you've got Paco Lopez back down here to Florida, Ronnie, after winning a combined 99 races between GPW and Gulfstream last winter.
Yeah, he really does well across town at Gulfstream Park West, and he's in town. Still riding on the weekends up north, but he'll be here during the week, and that's what he does every year until the places up there close, Monmouth Park.
Yeah, absolutely. And Monmouth, I got to think, is winding down. What do they run through the end of the month there?
I think so. I'm not positive about that, but I think so.
All right. Well, Paco rides 5 this afternoon, including Ronnie's top selection and Coffee Futures in the second race today. And about those carryovers, 3. It's nice when we have 2. It's rare when we have 3, but that is the case here on this fast and firm Thursday, September 19th, beginning with a very competitive turf sprint opener that'll have that carryover in the super high 5 of about $13,000. Later on, though, is when things really start to heat up, including, of course, Ronnie, races 5 and 6.
Yeah, 5 and 6. Of course, the Rainbow Six and the late pick 5 are our final 5 and 6 races on the card. And every time we have a carryover, we say this all the time in the late pick 5, they are going to slam it. So it's going to be a chance to make some good money this afternoon.
And just a 15% takeout. I mean, you get taxed and hit that one time for just 15%, 85% of the pool coming back, and hopefully you're one of the winners this afternoon. There's a lot of turf scattered throughout the program today, including an 8-horse field in the Thursday first race, and I used a few. In fact, I used both speeds, or at least the horses that I think will be fastest early in another softball, and the number 8 horse Twisted Licorice, and I do believe, at least going in, that the 3 Can't Take It With You, who will be a lot shorter than his current 7-1 by race time. He might just be the best closer in the race, but I'm going to need some luck to get through a very competitive and tricky 3 lifetime claimer. Ronnie's top pick, the 3, along with my top selection in Two-Step Beat in the second. I've got 3 horses in the third. I know you're a fan of the number 3, who I have on the ticket and slot receiver.
Yeah, changing barns this afternoon. Jimmy Martini, tell me a story. I think those are the logical 3, and you got all 3 on your ticket.
And I've got both maker favorites in races 4 and 5. He's got Dubai, who's probably going to be the horse to beat there in the 4th race, as that horse comes out of a good runner-up finish. And maker may have the shortest price favorite on the entire card in the 7, Shoulda, Woulda, Coulda, who I don't fully trust in that back end. I think Miguel Vasquez getting on the 6 just for chuckles, who you have second, Ronnie. I think that horse might be a formidable foe for the big favorite.
Yeah, I used both of those on my Rainbow Six, which, yeah. I know what you're saying about the 7, but I think that I wasn't quite that sure.
Now, as far as diving into this upcoming 3 lifetime $10,000 claimer, which features an 8-horse cast, you've got more than half the field. In fact, a handful of runners coming out of that 3rd race here on August 18th, won by Longblade. To me, that rematch is certainly towards the fore as discussing this race as far as talking about the field. But above all, what happens between the 6, potentially another softball, and the 8 Twisted Licorice? I tried to come up with a scenario where maybe they would hook up and go head-to-head and just tire each other out. But in the end, Ronnie, as you will sometimes attest to, I'm saying, you know what? Maybe there's a good chance the speeds are just going to run 1-2 around the track and none of the closers really get involved.
Yeah, it happens all the time. I really like this first race today. I think it's competitive, and you know, of course, we have that super high 5 carryover. I went with the 2 horse in here, Mr. Dewey, who's cutting back to 5 furlongs. First start, he went up, he set the pace, and he held on gamely that day. He defeated those 10 2-lifetime claimers. Now that claimer, excuse me, that was going around 2 turns. That was in July, but here's what I like about this horse. Look at its workout pattern. 5 consecutive swift 5-furlong drills. Yeah, Antonio Santos also got Torp Dior in here. I just thought this one's not going to be on the lead this horse today.
Yep.
He's going to sit. You're going to get a little bit of a price, 9-1. That was my thought process in there. But you're absolutely right about Twisted Licorice, and can't take it with you is going to drop down from this current odds.
Absolutely, and Mr. Dewey, who I've got fourth, and Can't Take It With You, they might be, in many respects, the two most powerful closers in the race, per se. It's a good point with his spirited work tab, and he's based here at Gulfstream with Antonio Sano. I'm taking the speeds. Ronnie's going to mix it up a little bit at 2-8 there in the first. We move on to the second. We hit the main track. In fact, 2 consecutive dirt races forthcoming in Thursday's second and third, and we'll have this 3-and-up filly and mare $10,000 claiming race. It's a question to me of whether the 3 Coffee Futures getting Paco can finally bust through after really not having an excuse last time out.
Yeah, he's really got to bounce back today after following. He was a real well-meant second, 2 starts back. He comes back, he chases, he weakens, he finished fourth. He was the odds-on choice last time out. I am guessing that he's better than his last might indicate. Tammy Levy, Paco Lopez, named to ride. Paco gets these horses to run. That was my thought process in there. But as you mentioned, you know, the 4 two-step beat and looking for more, I think you have to use on your ticket.
And Christian Torres, as it stands, has got his fingerprints over, at least as far as the 2 biggest players, in my opinion. Obviously, he was the rider last time at 3-5 with Coffee Futures, who just tired. And clearly, that filly has run the best and consistently the best races. And assuming we get something in line with her races in June or May, she's probably going to win at a short price. But if her last was a bad sign, or maybe a sign that she's starting to tail off a little bit, maybe the door's open for the 4 two-step beat as Christian, who's closing in on 50 wins or so this meet, right behind Edgar Zayas. He takes over for a 10-pound apprentice there. We move on to the third. We've got a dated 6250 bottom-level claimer on the dirt, and this one basically for horses that have not won a race since Florida Derby weekend earlier in the season. To me, Ronnie, distilled in its purest essence, you've got Dreamy Martini, the 6-year-old, who is 0 for his last 15. He is perhaps favored here, but he's got 2 new acquisitions he's got to face, including the Falcone horse and slot receiver and the Zerpa claim in the 5. Tell me a story.
Yeah, I think those are the logical 3 in there. But Dreamy Martini, you know, ran really good last time out against a tough horse. So we'll see how this race plays out. I know you want to show that last replay, but it is a tough race.
And Chiseled cut him down. Yeah. That is the tough horse Ronnie was alluding to. 20 lifetime wins for a seemingly ageless 8-year-old. In Chiseled, as Aubrey Mirage was 1-2 in this race. Dreamy Martini was the one who found himself on the lead. He's more or less a high cruising type route speed horse on the dirt, so I have no issue with his trip. The question becomes, does one of the new acquisitions, if not both of them, do they step up and run big for Zerpa and Falcone? And do you have a horse? I'm banking the answer is going to be the affirmative, that Dreamy Martini, because of the competition today, can finally turn things around. This horse, as I was saying, winless over his last 15. In fact, it's been over a year. September 15th of 2018 since he was last in the winner's circle.
Well, as they said, there ain't no Chiseled in here, so
no.
He's got a shot. I did go with slot receiver, who's now in the Robert Falcone Jr. barn. Geldings drops to this level on the main track. He failed to launch a rally when he was 5th. That was against those 16 condition claimers. Now, that was going 9 furlongs on the turf up at Monmouth Park. So I looked up a stat on Mr. Falcone, or I should say the kid Falcone. I'm so much older than him. First after a trainer switch, all levels this over the past year. This kid is doing a good job. 6 for 22, 27%, 41% in the money, positive return of investment. Raylu Gutierrez in the saddle. I just think this horse has got a shot to run okay in this spot.
I agree. I think he'll run well. My issue with him as a whole is the lack of dirt races that he shows. I mean, clearly he's been more or less a turf horse through and through with the 1 dirt race, 2 back, more of a suck-up third. But again, he's a new face and a dangerous face at that, much like the 5 Tell Me a Story, who his last race looks ugly. I get that. Note the speeds were 9th, 10th, and 8th. That race completely fell apart.
And this barn just does an incredible job. First off, the claim, 40% and there above. Got their go-to jock, MSCL Jaramillo, in the saddle today. This one is going to be going on the engine, I believe, in there. With, with MSCL, he rides for them. I think it's a big, you got to use him, and you got him right on top.
Oh, I think he'll run very well this afternoon, the number 5, Tell Me a Story again. major excuse last time. The race doesn't look all that great on paper, and hopefully he makes the lead over the 2 of Asmady and just never looks back. Let's move on to the 4th, my friend. We get on to the first of 2 potentially relatively short Mike Maker trained runners in races 4 and 5, and Dubayan, who may be my biggest issue with him and not picking him, and I respect, or her in this case, 5-year-old mare by Hansen. Her last race was pretty good, and here it is. She's gray, she's easy to spot. She's such a deep closing plotter, and that's the one issue and hang-up I have with her on the turf course this afternoon. But she got a great ride. I mean, you can really see Raylu Gutierrez just did everything right last time out, saving ground, smoothly angled outside of that horse who was dropping back on the rail, and she was simply second best behind Rapid Transit, who got first run. I would note, once again, this was a race that melted down, and the early speeds were nowhere to be found in deep stretch. But anyway you slice it, Ronnie, major player. I get why you picked Dubayan.
Well, you see Dubayan crossing the line there with the number 11, and until the other day, that post going 7.5 furlongs was 0 for 29. Now it's 1 for 30, so I thought it was a good performance. And look at Mike Maker. He's winning races here like 39% through the whole summer. He's got Raylu Gutierrez atop this daughter of Hansen. I just thought that horse ran exceptionally well, and that's why I went back to it.
It is a race, though, that has a number of different tiers, that is, towards the upper end, if you will, including the white-hot Joe Orsino's got my top pick, Sunshine Treasure. Joe, 7 for his last 16 on this turf course. Tropicality, who you have second. I mean, does this horse potentially turn things into a zero-sum game and just tries to wire the field?
Yeah, he's dropping to the 10 level, which I like, and stretching out to mile after dueling for the lead, finishing third. It was against 16 condition claimers, going 7.5. Susan Ditter, the trainer. Sammy Camacho handling that drop down today. This one's going on the engine, I believe.
And there's no speed in the race. I mean, Tropicality might get brave in for the dime if that horse does get loose, and the 8 Secret of Life is also taking a needed drop for trainer Rohan Crichton. That is your 4th race field on the turf. We're not done with Mike Maker. We've got Ronnie's Rainbow Six and a whole lot more after this quick timeout.
The best chance for success begins with a solid foundation. At Hardacre Farm, early personal one-on-one care starts the journey to becoming a champion. Bred to leading stallions, our mares represent the highest standards. Hardacre Farm's signature in the breeding industry. Based in Ocala, Florida, breeder and owner Amy Tarrant has inspired excellence throughout her entire career. In your quest for success, start with Hardacre Farm, breeding the champions of tomorrow.
Whether you're at home or at the track, have a stake in the race when you bet with ExpressBet. Sign up for an ExpressBet online betting account and receive up to a $500 sign-up bonus.
And we are back with about 45 minutes, give or take, before the first race, starting this penultimate week of the summer at Gulfstream Park. Jason and Ronnie joining all of you. A little Stronach 5 chatter, Ronnie. Last week, you had a winning ticket for about, $72? Paid just under 4 Gs. We're back at it, a bi-coastal sequence tomorrow afternoon, my friend, that begins with race number 8 up at Laurel Park.
Yeah, we got 2 legs here right at Gulfstream Park, leg B, leg E, just like we did last week. It was a fun sequence, and we're going to steal a line from Pete. Overlay City. It certainly was last week. I think the parlay was 600 and something. I believe
just under $700, and it paid, again, $3 short of 4K on the nose.
Yeah, so a great betting race, and of course it starts at Laurel about 5:12 p.m. And as I mentioned, a couple from Gulfstream and Golden Gate Fields. I finally got a winner there.
Yes, you did, my friend. And we'll be back with our good buddy Matt Dinnerman out in Berkeley, California, with the 4th race tomorrow afternoon at Golden Gate Fields. By my count, 53 entries, pre-scratch entries, scattered throughout the 5 races in the September 20th Stronach 5. We've got quite a few big fields coming up, and a Maker favorite that's gotten some, at least a mention and some acknowledgement. Not your single, however. Do you have a Thursday Rainbow Six single?
I do not have a single today, and as we mentioned a little earlier, I did use Just for Chuckles along with Shoulda, Coulda, Woulda on my ticket. And then you see 3 deep. My long shot today, I really like this horse today, and that's in race number 8, and it's the number 8 Dizzy, who's stretching out to a mile in the 16. This horse has got some, on the turf, get some back class, was 3rd in the Azalea. I think think this one sits a beautiful trip going there. I think 12-1 on the morning line. I think this horse is going to run well in there, and that's my key today. I hope again. And I think the last race, the 4 and the 7, are absolutely the two horses to beat in there. And 64.80 for me. Couldn't find that one single, but I like that long shot. Dizzy, which is probably named after me, most likely. So we'll see how this this sequence plays out. $64.80.
All right, before a penny bet into the Rainbow Six today, you've got $1.54 million plus waiting for you. And the fifth race, by the way, as we get back on the dirt and cut back to 5.5 furlongs, it's a bottom level 10K maiden claimer for 3 and up. This is if the 7 shoulda, woulda, coulda, who is a little star-crossed, and there are some questions here. Assuming this gelding is well meant today in for the dime, it's probably going to win. My issue with him at a short price is he just hasn't factored in 2 races to date, even off that long layoff.
Well, he is dropping 50% on the claiming scale. So I found a stat on Mr. Mike Mecca. This is on all surfaces. 50% drop in claiming price. 9 for 34, 26%, 59% in the money, 241 the return investment. And it was just a drop, but you're absolutely right. I wasn't sold on him, and that's why I added Just for Chuckles on my Rainbow Six ticket.
And there he is, born in Louisville, Kentucky, worked for D. Wayne Lucas for about a decade, left that barn in 03, and obviously has one of the most powerful stables, certainly as far as size goes. He runs an operation. Got to have a few hundred horses, you would think.
Absolutely. And the ones he left here in South Florida did a grind. Just as I mentioned at the top, he's winning races about 40% of the time here during the summer. I think that's the leading percentage of anybody here. I'm pretty sure of that. Of all the horses that have more than X amount of starters.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, no, good nugget there for sure. The 6 Just for Chuckles, though, returns. And I would argue that this gelding by City Place, and he's a 6-year-old, by the way. I don't know if I've ever liked the 6-year-old maiden as much as I like the 6 Just for Chuckles today. I'd argue his last race was every bit as good as shoulda, woulda, couldas, and that returned for 20. And there's that big rider change here for Michael Yates this afternoon.
Yeah, and Just for Chuckles, that race you're alluding to, produced a couple of next out winners, so it turned out to be a pretty good race for that Just for Chuckles comes out of. So I think that horse can run well.
And it's Miguel taking over the controls, and of course he teamed up from Post 11. That was the turf horse you mentioned, and with Madam Bourbon on a Sunday afternoon for Michael Yates. It seems like those Yates horses have gotten some rider changes of late. Let's see if the wins continue this afternoon. We make our run from the far turn, though, with 5 down and 5 to go, and we do have that carryover of about $45,000, give or take, in the late pick 5, and a good little turf claimer to start the sequence at a field that, in my eyes, really centers around the morning line favorite, the 5, Robin Taking Charge, and whether or not he's able to get loose like he did last time out. He looked so obvious on paper. I said, let me also include the 2 who I like as well, in Mazzobello, who's coming out of just a much the best victory for trainer Armando de la Cerda. I'm a little light. I guess if I had my druthers, Ronnie, and the ticket was already $24 and I don't have a single. The 7th race, I might be a little open, depending upon how live the Arundel Firster Sweden is. But I'm assuming the Kozan Firster, Cozy Cat for Michael Dubb and Ralph Nix will be good. And I feel as though the 4, Espirito de Luna, is far better than her most recent race. I've got 3 in race number 8. That is the best turf race, or best race, I should say, in general on the card.
Absolutely. That's why I got my long shot in there. But that is a race where you can go 6 different ways in there with the 10, the 2, the 8. That's a good betting race.
Great race for sure. You've got Gemologister, and I think he'll be favored. Jay's got him favored. I think he'll be favored. When the betting stops, and he's 2 for 44. That's a little bit of a concern. You've also got the 1 Cited, who I had some issue with on the rail. So the 4 Black Pepper, and I used Gemologister defensively in the 9th race. And like Ronnie's cash out, if we make it there, Ronnie boy, I hope either the 4 for Mr. Pletcher or the Crichton horse gets it done. Karenina off a DQ last time out.
Yeah, they both look like the logical 2 in there, and I think you go with that. But it's a tough sequence, both for the Rainbow Six and for the late pick 5. But the late pick 5 is a fun bet, as you mentioned, only a 15% takeout, and you got that nice carryover to kick it off.
Definitely. Now, Robin Taking Charge has got the good recent form. It's certainly an exposed victory that we'll check out last time out towards the end of August. And this horse was a huge favorite an odds-on favorite at that, because on paper it just looked like he was going to be as loosey-goosey as he wanted to be, and he was able to pull that trip for trainer Oscar Gonzalez. Claimed out of that race by Bobby DeBona. The issue to me is not his ability, it's not his recent form, it's not any of that stuff. It's whether or not somebody says, you know, if we want a shot, we can't let this horse just get out there and dictate the terms. Do you run into a situation where a horse like the 6 Unionizer takes the race early to Robin Taking Charge?
Yeah, I mean, and that is always the concern when you're trying to figure out the speed in these races here. But you got the Sammy Camacho stays aboard for the new connections today. He's a hard rider. He knows how to handle this horse. I think he knows how to control it and run well in there. But you're right about putting Mozobello. I had it on my ticket, too. That was some race last time out.
And was it a fluky performance? You can judge for yourself. And the main question surrounding this gelding by Bellamy Road is, and he got a fast pace. There was a runoff speed who's still out there at 11-1, winging and dinging, and Mozzabella just cut him down. And basically, like week before the sickle, I mean, these horses were gone in the wake of this gelding for Armando de la Cerda. But that race that we're looking at and discussing, Ronnie, to be fair, and I picked this horse, sticks out like a sore thumb. I mean, this was hands down the best run of his career. Has he quite simply maybe 2/3 of the way home through his 3-year-old season? Is this the race you go back to and say, well, look, he just wants to go 2 turns on the turf, and maybe this is a harbinger of things to come?
They dropped the horse to the right level. They put it on the turf, and it responded with that victory. So I would not be surprised to see two in a row. I split him with both the 5 and the 2 with the 8. Montreux drops, turns back to 7.5. Finishing 5th, it was a good starter, optional claimer that produced 3 next out winners from 5 starters. Carlo Baccareza has got Alvin Jimenez in the saddle. So the old key race angle for me, just the split, which I think is the logical to Robin and Mozobello.
All right, and again, it really, to me, hinges upon the pace. Does somebody go with Robin Taking Charge early on? Carlo, by the way, also runs the 1 Shazier from the rail. 7th race back on the main. I do like this race quite a bit. I mentioned I'm a little concerned that I'm only too deep here because of cost, after all, in the late pick 5. But between the 2 firsters positioned outside and some of the others that have run sneaky okay to this point, I think you have yourself a pretty compelling Florida-bred 2-year-old filly maiden special weight puzzle. The race may go through ultimately, Ronnie, though, the 9 Cozy Cat, who's the only filly in the race by Kozan off a good work tab.
Yeah, I thought a really productive sire. Kozan debuting for Ralph Nix, Lasix, MSCL, Jaramillo named to ride. But you're right. You're sort of guessing that this horse is going to be able to win first time out. So if you have some thoughts, you like the 4 who's already had a couple of starts, and consistency, always something you have to look at when you're doing these type of races with these state-bred fillies.
I really like the Spiritud de Luna's first race. She was wide. She finished 4th behind her star-crossed stablemate, where very little has gone right following that July 6th race for 260, who I still think has some talent. She wasn't able to follow it up last time out, and I don't know if there's a 2-year-old filly currently based in Florida, and this goes for late July when the race took place, that could have beaten Sound Machine. That concerns me, or at least it is a little bit bothersome that she didn't really run at all. But in watching that replay, and there wasn't a ton to pull, that's why I didn't send it in, but she kind of just got lost chasing was jammed up between horses, and like I said, just never really got in a groove in her last start, July 28th. There's no drop. She's back without a lengthy layoff, and I'm thinking her talent might be a little more in line with that good first race with the wide trip. You like the David Fox filly. Again, separating ourselves from some of the shorter-priced horses. Tell us about the 2 Irish Thunder.
Well, this is turning back. Irish Thunder's turning back to a sprint distance on the main track after tracking the pace, finishing 4th. That was against 50 maidens going 7.5 on the turf. This is not a move that you see David Fox do all the time. So I looked up the stat. Turf to dirt with his 2-year-olds. He's 4 for 22, 18%, 50% in the money, $1.60 return of investment. I'm always intrigued by 2-year-olds when they go, change surfaces. Maybe this horse, they found out Ira Rendon is going to be in the saddle today. Maybe this horse wakes up with the surface switch this afternoon.
And speaking of waking up, the amount of money that Hechizada took, or Hechizada, filly by Cantharos, in her debut, bet off the board essentially for Antonio Sano. didn't really run. I watched the race. My one comment was outrun. Do we find out today maybe the money first out was the smart money, because Edgar does stay aboard, yet she really didn't lift a hoof?
Well, she rallied late. She finished fourth. She moved forward, and I like the fact that you hit it right on the head, that Edgard sticks around and this horse taking money. They must think this horse has some talent in there. So I split Cozy Cat and Irish Thunder with Hitchizada. So I just think this is a wide-open affair, and like you said, you're a little light. I think this is where, if you can find a single on the ticket, this is where you go deep.
Yeah, one of the firsters outside. If Sweden and/or Cozy Cat can run a little, they're going to be both very tough in that field, but a good little puzzle there in the 7th. Don't miss a beat. Again, the race of the day, as far as Ronnie and I are concerned, in our Thursday 8th, we go with 10 3-and-up fillies and mares, and these are Florida breds on the grass in the 8th race. Trip is going to matter, and really comes to the fore. I'm going to ride the hot hand of Joe Orsino on the turf with the Deuce Cassidy. Smile.
Yeah, I was given some time off after a maiden victory in April with a pair of out-of-money finishes, but he's been going so well. Paco will be aboard. But I touched on Dizzy a little while ago. 12-1 in the morning line, stretching out to a mile in the 16. Broke from the rail prior to launching that 5-wide bid, finishing fourth against 40 starter. Optional claim is going 7.5. Juan Alvarado, Embassy El Jaramillo. I think this one sits a great trip. This horse has got some back class, third in the Azalea, albeit on the main track. But look at the speed of the 4, the 5, and the 10.
Yep.
I think Dizzy, at a price, you put this one somewhere on your ticket. I like the back class. I think this is the sneaky in the race.
I try to go through and bring up some bullet points when I'm handicapping. And my second one was crowded pace / first flight.
Right.
And some of the biggest players all like to get involved early, Ronnie. So we'll see. Hopefully you and I are both right. And we have a couple of live, decent-priced runners from off the pace. But a very good 8th race this afternoon. Back on the main, in fact, our final dirt race on this Thursday, September 19th. Bring on these 3 lifetime 6250 claimers. Good old Jamal Gister. You got to love him. He always tries. He rarely wins. Does he bust through this condition and make it 3 for 45 in his career?
Well, the big thing for them, they dropped this horse finally where it belonged, to the $6,250 level. I put him on top. I used a 5-horse 4th design, listed as a gelding today in Nairobi. I'm hoping Gemologist. I lost so much money the first 3 or 4 times this horse ran just because of the breeding on the turf. That was a long time ago.
Many moons ago.
Yeah, it's on the top of my ticket today.
Sided's back in his second start, following basically, to the day, a 12-month layoff, and he was bet off the board and didn't really follow through after showing some speed. He might be a little stronger this afternoon. And the 4 Black Pepper, I think his race 2 back really matches up well with this field as a whole. That second behind Spa Jazz in front of Happy Hat. And in the end, I just had, with the lean record of Jamal Gister and the fact that Sided was gone for so long and plummeted to the bottom and lost at 4 to 5, I had some issues with them. I landed on Black Pepper. We wrap things up, Ronnie. I know we've got a stat here with the Pletcher barn. You and I are 4-7-7-4 till the cows come home.
Yeah, Karenina. Karenina. That one gives me trouble all the time. This one crossed the wire first and was disqualified, comes back, River Fire, quick stat on Todd Fletcher. Now, it's maiden winner last time out on the turf. Now he's at Gulfstream Park. The horse won up at Monmouth. But let's see how he does with maiden winners after the winner last time out. He's on the turf. He's 9 for 57, 16%, 51% in the money. But I like the fact that he's got a positive return of investment.
And your man Edgar Zai sticking around to ride the nightcap. And looks like Ashley and Lily might have to wait a little longer for Edgar to get home from the races this afternoon. He'll pilot the 4 River of Fire in the last. Pete Aiello, meanwhile, from this desk, will pilot our scratches and changes on this Fast and Firm Thursday. Ronnie and I will join all of you about 10 minutes before first post.